Hey, welcome to the first episode of Two Old Geeks Talking. So this is my brother Rob, my name's Trace, and when we get together we just like to talk about different things. And so we thought, you know what, let's just film this because, you know, we got to represent Generation X
Right.
and geeks our age, and because we were geeks when geeks wasn't cool, right?
Right. And not that millennials can't get something from this too.
Well, that's true. That's true. They can get somebody to make fun of anyway. But anyway, today we're going to be talking about Blade Runner. Now, I know some of you younger people may not realize this, but there was a time where you couldn't watch whatever you wanted whenever you wanted. And so when the VCR come out, and we would rent one, and we'd watch these rated R movies, and one of the first ones we saw was Blade Runner, and that was like one of the first rated R movies we saw.
Right.
And I think Blade Runner come out in '82, and I think we saw it when it came out on video like in '83.
Yeah.
What was your first impression of it?
Well, I had already seen it before we got it on VHS. There was a television. Yeah, I know. There was a television version that came out, but they cut all the bad stuff out of it.
And what you mean all the good stuff?
Right. So, so the thing is I fell in love with it then.
Yeah.
I didn't need to see, boobies crashing through glass. It was a good story beforehand.
I did.
Well.
And and this may be the first copy that I saw. Well, there used to be a video store called Jeff's Video. They went out of business, and I bought some of their old VHS tapes. And so this may be the very first one we saw. And they've got like 5 different cuts. Can you name them?
You have director's cut. You have cinematic cut. I don't know. What are they?
I looked.
I'm glad you did.
Actually, there's the final cut. There is which come out in 2007. The original theatrical cut come out in 1982. The international theatrical cut come out in 1982. That's my favorite. Director's cut come out in 1991, and then there was a work print that also got released when he released everything on Blu-ray. And I don't know why you need 5 cuts of the same movie, but hey, we got it. What's your favorite cut?
My favorite one, I can't tell you which one it is the first one I seen where it was narrated.
Yeah.
Everything was narrated.
Yeah.
You heard Deckard talking about what was going on. So that was my favorite one. So when I did finally get it on VHS,
Yeah.
and that wasn't there, it was like something. It took me a minute to realize it wasn't there.
Right, right.
And it made it almost a total different take on it, kind of, in a way.
I mean, for me, I agree with you 100%, and most people disagree with you and me. I like the voice narration.
Right.
And people don't understand it, and they think it's bad, and there's rumors that Harrison Ford didn't like it, and he tried to intentionally suck whenever he did that. What they don't realize, because a lot of people are younger than you and I, is that what Blade Runner was a mixture of a 1940s detective movie, and how many of those have you seen, and sci-fi. It just mixed it together. Like Star Wars was sword and sorcery and fantasy mixed together with sci-fi. Blade Runner was a 1940s detective movie, and if you ever saw one, or if you ever read a 1940s detective novel, there was always that narration going on in the character's head. And so to me, watching it without it takes something away.
Right.
And like one of my favorite lines from the movie is at the very end, it's in the voice narration, where it says, I don't know why he saved me, spoiler alert. I don't know why he saved me, I guess he loved life, any life, my life. And one of the things he said was, I guess in the end, he was just like me. He just wanted to answer the same questions I do. Where'd I come from? Where am I going? How long do I got? And to me, that's like the ultimate human question. Where did I come from? Where am I going? How long do I got? And that's something that every person who's ever lived has asked themselves. And so to me, that made the movie. It was like the realization there at the second that Deckard had that, look, this thing is just, this is live and more like me than I realized. And to me, if you take that out, you just got a guy staring at somebody in the rain. What's your thoughts?
I like the fact that you said it was alive and more like me. I'm real artsy fartsy, and to see a sci-fi movie that everything wasn't crisp and clean.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't Star Wars, it wasn't Flash Gordon, it was a nitty gritty, everything was wet, nasty, and dirty. You had cars shooting out smog, the people looked like they'd been rode hard and hung up wet, and it was a visualization of the future that I had never seen before.
Yes.
It was almost like we survived a post-apocalyptic kind of thing, but it wasn't that. It was like, I don't know how to describe it. That's what got me, was the look. When now you can get into the whole music and the sound of it too,
Sure.
which kind of helps narrate the whole thing,
I mean, Sid Mead did the design work on it, and he did fantastic. And he was the one that said the future is going to look old. The future isn't going to look new.
Right.
And that was a different take.
Right.
And Vangelis' music and the soundtrack was just unbelievable. Special effects were top notch and still hold up today.
Right, and when we talk about special effects, we're not talking about like CG.
Right.
We're talking about people building miniatures.
Yeah.
And capturing and zooming a camera through a miniature city or showing a miniature car or something like that. The work and the lighting and everything it just worked. It just put together. It was just like perfect.
Right. As far as merchandise from Blade Runner, I don't have a whole lot. I do have this figure that I bought secondhand several years ago, and they come out with several different versions of the head. The same company made it. It was some Japanese company, and I had it boxed up for years and just recently set it on a shelf. And but one of my, let me ask you this: what do you think? Did you see the new movie? Blade Runner 2049?
Yes.
What's your opinion on it?
I did not care for it. Okay, it was kind of like, I don't know how to explain it. When you've had your mama's meatloaf, it's good, it's great, it's great. And then you eat somebody else's meatloaf. It's still a meatloaf. You still know it's meatloaf because you can taste some of the same things, but it just wasn't there. It just wasn't.
Right.
It just wasn't the same. And they tried to keep the music the same. They kept some of the lighting the same. When they showed people in the offices and the way the lights was moving, and
Yeah.
you even heard some of the same background noise. The story just wasn't there.
Yeah, I mean, to me, where they messed up is that everybody wants to change your expectations now. They want to give you something new. Well, James Bond movies have pretty much been James Bond movies since the very beginning. There's something you expect with a James Bond movie. You go to a Friday 13th movie, you kind of expect a certain thing. To me, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You don't have to do a sequel or a prequel. To me, the better choice for another Blade Runner movie would have been something set in the same time frame, because I wanted to revisit that world. You could have took Harrison Ford's salary in Blade Runner 2049 and just put it back into the movie. And maybe you had Harrison Ford in the background, or Rachel going down the street.
Right.
But you had another Blade Runner, another story set in the same city. Right now there's some comic series, and I don't know if you've seen these.
No, I haven't.
And they're made by Titan Comics. It's called Blade Runner 2019. What it is, it's another story set during the same time as Deckard. It's got a female character. It's got it's November 2019, which, hey man, we'll talk about that here in a second. And but it's a great story. It's like on issue 4. There can be 5 issues. I hope it continues. I hope it's an ongoing.
So the Blade Runner in this one is a female.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah.
cool.
Now, see, that was so great, and it's a great story, and you need to read them.
Well, see, okay, how many times have you ever read a comic book and said, why didn't they do this? Why didn't they put this
Right.
on film?
Right. See, that would have been the way to go, because that way you could have had the same.
Who makes
You could sing the same music. You could have had the same feeling as the original. I know they wanted that star power, but if you had a female Asian lead, especially in 2019, I think that would have been popular. I think that'd been the way to go, and hopefully they'll go back and do something like that. They still can.
Yeah, because the money they spent to rebuild Rachel
Yeah.
in that movie,
Yeah.
they could have used like an off take of one of the old movies, like something that hit the cutting floor or something.
Yeah.
And just CG'd it, like you said, in the background. Having her sitting there and all of a sudden have her see some woman just crash through a window and her just jump back out of the way. It's not none of my business. I'm on my own mission.
Right.
You know, they're taking care of this. I'm going to keep going.
Yeah, if Hollywood wouldn't think sequel and prequel, if they would just think another movie set in that world.
Right.
You know,
Okay,
tell
so-
another story.
What was that movie? Was it called Soldier?
Yeah, with Kurt Russell.
Did you know they were supposed to be set in the same time,
They
place, the
hinted
same
at
time?
it, yeah.
Right.
He had a tattoo on his arm that said Tannhauser Gate. Can you say that? Can you say that?
Now, is it Tannhauser or Tinhauser?
Tomato.
So here's my thing. It was a good movie.
Yeah.
It had its own look. It was dirty. It was gritty. It was a good story. It didn't do as well as Blade Runner,
It was good though.
but they wouldn't try to feed off of Blade Runner.
Yeah.
But there was, like you said, there was that hint that, hey, they share a cinematic universe.
Yeah, that was a good. That was a good movie. I don't want to get off on that movie, but that was a good movie.
Right.
It had a good story. If you bring you broke it, man. if you bring soldiers back from the war, that was kind of and try to reintegrate them into a peaceful society. Sometimes they don't go well. Speaking of Rachel, I got a movie poster here that I've had for years, and I got Sean Young to sign it at a Comic-Con I went to last year. And I finally got to meet her. It says, "Much love, Sean Young, Rachel."
Much.
Yeah, and she put a little star by
It
it.
couldn't just be
No.
love.
No,
It's just
no.
much
I
love.
think that we really clicked. I think we did. And she shook my hand. It was this hand, if you want to touch it.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, it's November 2019, and that was the future. We have made it to the future.
Right.
So anyway, I mean, I don't have a flying car. Do you?
No,
What about a replicant? You got one?
not that I'm going to tell you about.
Okay. They're very expensive. They're like $5,000. They don't move. They just lay there. But anyway, I hope any final thoughts?
Do you think there'll be a third?
I think as long as they can make money off of it, they'll make another.
Yeah, I
Ridley
don't-
Scott has said he'd like to.
All right.
So
Well, if they can tie him into it, they will.
right. They need to look at these comics. They need to.
Right.
Okay, I think we're done here.